Hey, welcome to Old Ass Movie Reviews. I'm Scott. There's Dave right here. Hey, and we are doing what we said we would never do. When we started this podcast, we're like, hey, let's talk about something we love. Let's talk Star Wars. And it's like, I was like, no, Dave, everybody's talking Star Wars. Everybody. So we just didn't want to be everybody. But what we found is almost every episode, we're talking Star Wars. So
there's always been reference dropped.
So 80-something episodes later, here we are, and we are starting with the first movie in chronological order, not in the order of release, of Episode 1, Phantom Menace, and we'll be going through all 11, including the spinoffs, Solo, and Rogue One.
Yep.
So before I get started on this, a shout-out to David Carroll, who's joined us a couple times, or at least once, I think, on a podcast. Maybe just once. But he sent me a message and is like, I can't wait to hear you guys shit all over Star Wars.
Oh, and my Lord, really?
And my first response was, thank you. And I'm not going to shit all over Star Wars. And then I watched Phantom Menace. So David's right. I am going to shit all over this movie.
Right.
There is some good, but I know you took a lot of notes, David.
Yeah, I did take. Where did I drip? Oh, here we are. I put them where I wouldn't lose them, and then I lost them.
I figured my hand would cramp up from all the notes I would be writing, so I just sat back and watched.
I wanted, if you don't mind, I'd like to go through because
Please.
I am horrible with people's names.
Okay.
And I'm constantly teased about it from the 4 people who actually watch the show. That I can never remember anybody's name. I'm always like, the guy, the person, the who, the woman.
Yeah, you know that guy.
So I'm going to read off everybody's name, all the main characters, all the main actors that were in this movie. Of course, John Williams' score.
Yes.
Scored
that
the
is
movie.
the best, one of the best things of the movie, of any of them, when you have that score.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about that a little later.
But I'm going to say that John Williams, let's be kind about it, I believe he borrowed heavily from Joel McNeely, a guy who had done Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. If anyone listens to this, now this soundtrack came out long before this movie. So if you listen to that soundtrack, know that Shadows of the Empire was done long before that.
Interesting.
And he pulls a lot from that, I feel. I mean, I could be wrong, but if you don't hear it, I understand. But if you do hear it, that I think he borrowed heavy. Liam Neeson was Qui-Gon Jinn. Ewan McGregor was, of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Natalie Portman was Padme / Amidala. Jake Lloyd was little Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker.
Little Annie.
Pernilla August. Do what?
Little Annie.
What'd you say?
Little Annie.
That's enough to send anybody into a black suit with a red lightsaber.
Yeah.
Being called Annie all the time. Pernilla August was Shmi Skywalker, his mom.
She looked familiar.
She's been in a lot of stuff.
Okay.
I think she was like low. I would say probably like along the lines of Ewan McGregor. A lot of off-center movies, a lot of things that weren't
a little
mainstream.
more independent bent.
Yeah, much more independent. Frank Oz, of course, did the voice for Yoda.
Yeah.
Ian McDiarmid was Palpatine. Anthony Daniels, I knew he did the voice, but I don't know if he actually did the puppeteering for the C-3PO or not. I'd have to find out. I was shocked to find out Kenny Baker was actually in the R2 costume again, or in the R2.
Really? Now that I didn't know.
Kenny Baker was R2-D2. Terrence Stamp.
Why is that name familiar?
Terrence Stamp. Kneel before Zod. Superman 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, where Valorum failed is he didn't have his other 2 cohorts with him that would have came in.
So he was, okay. All right. Yeah.
And the best, what is it? The alien species of Jar Jar Binks.
The Gungan?
The Gungan. The boss Nass was Brian Blessed. The same guy who played Hawkman in the
really?
Yeah, in the Flash Gordon movie.
I'll be damned.
Mid 80s, early
Yeah,
80s.
with the Killer Queen soundtrack.
And I could not figure out, and I'm sorry, folks, I'm going to go back and try and figure out who the guy was that played Jar Jar Binks, because that guy gets a lot of shit.
He does, and he doesn't deserve it.
Not his fault. Yeah,
no,
that's directly the director's fault.
I'm looking his name up right now. I just want
to go through everybody's names because okay, that's what I was going to do, but you do it well. And while you're doing that, Ahmed Best. Okay.
Ahmed Best, yep.
I could not remember that guy's name to save my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy gets a lot of crap, and yeah, that's a lousy character in my opinion. I think it's a horrible character. Mm-hmm. Should have been played completely different.
But it's a paycheck.
You know, it's a paycheck. I would have done it, especially back then before Star Wars was completely destroyed. Okay, let's start from the very beginning of this movie.
All right. You can see the trajectory that we're going with this already.
There are things that I like about this movie, and I will go into those. But the thing, when the old lady and I went to go see this movie initially, sitting in the theater, probably somewhere in the middle of the theater, so, you know, you got the really good shot. You're like, fucking new Star Wars, yeah! And we're sitting there, and I'm like, just fucking grow the scroll. It's scrolling.
Yes.
Yes, this is
It's
great.
happening.
And then the aliens show up. The trade guild guys, representatives. And they start speaking with a Chinese accent, possibly Japanese.
It is a broken English.
A very
Chinese,
bad broken English accent. And I'm like, I leaned into the wife, I whispered in her ear, this movie's gonna suck. And she looked over at me. She said, well, why do you say that? I said, no subtitles. They're not speaking Huttese.
Yeah.
From that point on, for me, that movie just was shit. My one piece of advice to Disney right now, if you're going to do these movies and you're going to keep showing them on your show, one simple little fix to help bring this movie to be better, have somebody dub them in Huttese and then subtitle
it would make a big difference. Let's pause for a second and talk about that, because that is one of the things that happens at the beginning of the movie. This opens like every typical Star Wars. You got the crawl, and you've got the space pan of either a battle or a bunch of ships, and here we see the Federation blockade, or was it the Federation blockade? Yeah. So we see that, but then you get to the I forget what alien species these are.
They were the trade guild is all I know that they were called.
I don't know what sounded as if I was doing a mocking Chinese accent, trying to be funny. I find it somewhat offensive because it's really not necessary. You could have just, like you said, dub it in Huttese or whatever, and have it subtitled. Would have given it much more seriousness. Instead, this was like, it was off-putting, and it's like, what the fuck were they thinking?
Yeah,
it's like. Yeah.
That's a big problem with the character, which brings us into the next character that I was originally talking about, Jar Jar Binks.
Yes. The same thing with his language.
Now, see, the problem wasn't that Jar Jar's speech pattern was kind of weird. Because when you meet the general kind of
has... They speak the same way, yeah.
They all kind of have that same weird speech pattern. It's the fact that they had him just doing like the clownish maneuvers and
he was slapstick.
He was slapstick where it wasn't needed. I think had they met the general, or if he had been more, just for lack of a better term, a fish out of water.
Yeah,
that would have worked better for me. I know I know it was put there for the kids. It wasn't put there for me. That wasn't put. Jar Jar Binks was not put in for the fans of Star Wars. They just weren't. No. He was trying to get new fans.
This is the argument that I hear a lot of people make when they defend Jar Jar, because I say it's just the worst fucking character. I have major issues with Jar Jar, and not so much that it's a character; it's the way he was directed to play it, the way he was directed to speak, and the way they made him so animated and goofy. I didn't find it funny, and I tell people that, they're like, "Hey, it's for the kids. Kids love it." I've never met a kid that likes Jar Jar. Maybe there are. But I was thinking, and this is one of the things I have to tell myself as I go back and watch these movies. You and I are very privileged that we got to see the original trilogy.
Yeah.
When it came out in the theater. And
standing in line.
Yes. Such a major event in our lifetime when it comes to movies is that original trilogy. And
definitely.
It was ahead of its time. The effects were incredible. We had never seen anything like that. And it was just such great world building. And I still get chills thinking about Empire because it is my favorite. And you see this and it's like, I don't know where I was going with this, but Jar Jar, maybe for the kids, but I've always liked the droids. That's been my thing. R2 and C-3PO to me are the comic relief in the movie. Bottom line.
I think the problem with Jar Jar is he tried to write Jar Jar as a comedic relief instead of just writing a fish out of water. R2-D2
which would have been comedy.
And C-3PO are comic relief because they are a sort of fish out of water. C-3PO is used to being the translator droid and basically ignored unless he's needed. R2-D2 is the guy who goes over and fixes stuff, and you always need R2-D2. He saves the day. They're dropped on a planet, but that's in the future. But you know what I mean? That worked for them. Jar Jar, I think, he tried to write down to kids, never write down. I
think you're right. I think he did write down thinking,
opinion.
They'll love it. I do believe you're right.
The opinion of a guy who's not making billions of dollars off of Star Wars.
And
take that for what it's worth.
and that's one of the things about it. We can't deny that there was a marketing idea on this, and they were going to go in and make market the shit out of it. And they needed a whole new audience. Did this bring kids into Star Wars? I don't know. So any listeners out there who cut their teeth on this as their first venture into Star Wars, let me know. Did this do it for you? Was it like, oh shit, I got to watch more? Or was it like, fuck that?
Or was it like, what is the big deal with Star Wars? I would like to know that.
I would too. I'd really like to know.
I've talked to some people who really like this movie, who are like, no, it's fine. I like Jar Jar. He was good. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I just kind of give him my wide-eyed look and walk backwards.
They're entitled to their opinions, even if they're wrong.
Exactly. Did you take any notes?
I don't have any notes.
Okay.
I just, one of the things with this that my wife and I noticed last night was for so many excellent actors, there's really not a lot of great acting in here. Jake Lloyd is really good as a young Anakin. But it was hard for some of the others.
I was going to save this for episode 2. There was an interview given by the kid who played Anakin and
Jake Lloyd.
No, in the
Hayden Christensen.
Hayden Christensen.
Yeah, there you go, fucking up the names Hayden like Dave does.
See, I did.
Y'all call him on it.
Do it again. I fucked up. I was so good too. I wrote everybody's name down. But there's an interview where he talks about why he acted the way he acted in that movie. Because I've seen that cat in other movies. He's good. He's a good actor.
Yeah.
Never saw him act that stiff. And it's because George Lucas basically gave him that direction.
I believe that. I believe a lot. That's what I was getting at is you have Liam Neeson, Ewan McGregor, all these good actors, Samuel L. Jackson, all these motherfuckers. I still wanted Mace Windu to say, use the Force, motherfucker. But that would have been great.
Even my lightsaber. What do you mean, what lightsaber? The lightsaber that says,
say lightsaber one more time, motherfucker. Try me, bitch. But it was...
They should have just given Mace Windu one of those scenes. I'm sorry.
I know, and it is that. I always felt that it was that the direction that they were directed because directors
never directed these movies.
No, he shouldn't have.
George Lucas should not have directed these movies. He should have went back to the well and got the guys that directed Empire and Jedi, because I think the guy who directed Empire was still alive and would have worked with him, but he had such a hard time directing Empire because George would go in there and start telling him to do stuff. He said, "No, that's not what we're going to do.
Yeah,
it's just not going to happen, George."
I'm so glad he didn't listen to George.
I guess they had a bit of a head
Oh
to
yeah,
head,
I'm
to
sure.
head,
I'm sure.
locked horns a lot.
Well, it's got to be, in George's defense, I get it. This is his baby, and he has a vision for it. And
Yeah.
you and I have said this on multiple occasions when we weren't talking Star Wars, but Star Wars crept into our podcast.
Right.
Was George needed better friends?
Yeah, he didn't need to surround himself by yes men, and I
No.
think with these movies is when he really started surrounding himself with yes men.
And it shows.
I watched some of the, and it's not that I don't think the model builders were fantastic. It's not that I don't think the set designers were great or the person hiring the actors, the casting director. All these people knew their job. They know how to do. They knew what George wanted. I don't think if he was picking somebody the wrong person or if he was doing something wrong, I don't think anybody had the cojones to say, no, George, I don't think you should do it that way. Because they probably would have got fired. Which,
and that's probably accurate.
That's fine to an extent, but you better be like Henry Ford and say, I want to hear the truth even if it gets you fired.
Yes.
I don't think he ever wanted to hear the truth. And I think at some point...
God, we know a lot of people like that.
Yeah, they don't want to hear the truth. And that's not that I get it to an extent. You don't want to be told certain things.
Well, no.
But if you're reading something and it's not reading right, or if I'm in there watching the dailies with you, or I'm watching the cut right, 2 weeks before you're going to release it, and you say, "What do you think?" I'm going to give you my real answer. I think he just surrounded himself with too many people who are like, "Oh, you're brilliant, George. Oh, you're brilliant, George. Oh, you're brilliant, George," and he started believing it.
Well, I will say this.
That's my opinion.
When I first saw this, I was so excited, like you, to my God, Star Wars is continuing, and I gave this movie a big pass after I saw it in the theater because I'll be honest, even though I think it's too long and too much time is spent on it, the pod race is pretty fucking fun.
They cut like 20 minutes out of that pod race.
I know, and there are extras, and I didn't watch the extras. It's like, oh my God, there's all these scenes from the pod race they cut out.
Yeah.
And I felt it could have been done down a little more. And then it's not so much that the pod race needed to be brought down. It's the first half of that movie to me is like has a brick around your neck, and it is dragging so fucking slow.
After that initial attack on the ship, it's a lot of dragging. It's a lot. There's a big drag.
It's painful.
And again, had he brought in another writer, had he brought in not Rick McCollum, but was it Rick McCollum that wrote Solo? The guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
I want to say it was Rick McCollum. I may have the name wrong. I have to double check. That guy helped write Empire, I believe. Call that guy in. Have him sit down with you. He could have helped you. Is all I'm
this
saying.
Needed some rewrites.
It could have been a better story. This always felt like a first draft to me.
Yes, I said that last night. It's like this feels like a first draft. It needed an edit to streamline it.
Yeah, needed somebody to say no, George, and slap his hand.
The problem to me with this movie, it's integral. The story that it portrays is integral to the whole story arc that we have now. It's important stuff, but it's also boring stuff. So how do you make that exciting? So he works a war in, you got the underwater city, some creatures and stuff, just to keep you interested while he tells this boring political story that's kind of in the background. And even then they glaze over it. And because this movie's title gives away the whole plot. It is the Phantom Menace because Palpatine is working his magic to become emperor, right in your face, but he's doing it in such a way that
I knew people who didn't know who Palpatine was, like people who'd seen this movie, but I didn't. When they saw the next one, they're like, I didn't know that was. I'm like, how did you not know? How could you not know that? Did you not read a comic? Did you not read any of the book? A lot of people never read the book. I read the books. I read a lot of books. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here and the problem is I think also he wrote himself into a corner. For 30 years or however many years in between the movies, there were a lot of books written.
Right.
And the books were always talking about the Clone Wars and the Dark Jedi versus the Light Jedi. And the age for Luke was 19 or 20 when Star Wars, the first one, hits. And you're like thinking to yourself, okay, 20 years, Vader should have been becoming more Vader-ish. There's just a lot of things that that I think could have been done better had, like you said, he didn't do himself any favors by not having somebody there to tell him no. His friends did him a disservice.
I believe so.
Know?
I believe so. I think it could have used a couple of rewrites. It kills me because it is a Star Wars movie, and I love the Star Wars universe. Yeah. I just think this is not a good movie. It's entertaining at points. Mm-hmm. It's important to the story because I like seeing that backstory. I just don't think it's that good. And that's
no, like you said, I think it could have been edited a little bit differently.
Yeah, I think so.
There is a funny scene in the movie that when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are in the Gungan City. Gungans, mm-hmm. That's what they're called. Gungan City. Forgot. He's trying to do a mind trick on Boss Nass.
Yes.
I don't think the mind trick worked because he's trying to say, well, he owes me a life debt. I think, I'm going to take him. And he's doing the little hand thing. And Boss has just changed the subject entirely.
Yeah.
And then he comes back. He's like, oh, you want to take him. Like, just basically get.
Yeah.
He's telling him, get the hell out of here. And
it's funny.
I don't think that mind trick worked on him.
No, and that's what's funny because it becomes a running gag with Qui-Gon doing it, and it's not working.
It's not working on
Watto or whatever.
Species.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing, Watto? Watto's like, what are you doing?
Watto, yeah.
You can't, my tricks don't work on me. That was funny. It's like, shit. My one go-to trick's not working.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good character too, the junk dealer.
I just don't think any of this plot, this movie makes a whole lot of sense. And
it was a way to get some Star Wars.
There was just a lot of different, it didn't feel like Star Wars.
That's a fair assessment.
Yeah, it kind of like the last ones.
Yeah, I can see that.
Here's something that's always bothered me. I don't know if it's bothered you because we never really talk about religion or anything here. So I'm going to say this, and I just want to get your take on it. The Immaculate Conception.
Oh, it
Darth
pisses
Vader.
Me the fuck off.
Thank you, because Kat and I were looking at each other, and I'm not the most religious guy in the world, and I pretty much try not to make fun of anybody's religion. Christian, Hebrew, Islam. I try not to make fun of anyone's religion. And to face it, any religion can be made fun of.
There's nothing funny about talking snakes, Dave.
That's kissing snakes, kissing rattlesnakes in the back mountains of.
Oh yeah, but they talk to you if they're in an apple tree. They like to give you fruit. Yeah, that makes perfect fucking sense.
Here, have an apple. Anyway. Shut up. I was told not to eat that apple. No, it's a good apple.
It's knowledge. It's knowledge. Do you want knowledge? Then eat the apple.
Not anymore, I don't. Sometimes I'd like to just be a sheep.
But anyway, the Immaculate. I laughed out loud with that. It's like, oh God, I forgot about that.
The first time I heard it, I was just like, oh my God, he did not go there.
He did.
He did. And I'm like, and I thought, okay, if I were going to tell him something and knowing what we know about the stories now, Darth Plagueis should have been his father. Should have been Darth Vader's father.
Yeah.
That would make more sense. That would be me going, oh, fudge. That's who Plagueis is. Or Plagueis, however they pronounce the name. I would have been like, holy shit. That totally makes sense. But no. Plagueis was made up many years later in another bad movie.
here's the thing about the whole Immaculate Conception, and the Jedi Council talks about the prophecy,
should have been left alone. Yeah,
and that this may be the one who brings balance. And it's like, Darth Vader is a cool fucking character. Anakin Skywalker has a really good arc as a character, and he does redeem in the end. But to paint him as a savior of the universe and immaculate is like, shut the fuck up. That's the way I looked at it. So
that's kind of how I felt. Like, it's okay to. I just feel like it's okay for everybody to piss on one religion, but if you piss on another one, everybody's going to freak out. Because we're afraid there will be car bombs in our car or whatever. You name it. You just don't do it. Just stay away from that. It's something that's so blatant anyway.
Yeah.
So blatantly a stick in the eye. Just don't do it. Just don't. They could have figured out something else. There could have been something else there.
Yeah, it could have just been worded differently.
Yeah.
But I don't know, and even then she could have just said, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was
His father
done
died,
in a way.
something, anything,
Yeah, it was done in a way to make him a Christ figure. And I don't equate the character of Jesus Christ to Anakin Skywalker in any
as
shape
a
or form.
lightsaber wielding, crazy
Pacifist,
bastard and a child killing bastard. Which that's in another movie, but we'll cover that
coming.
Too.
The younglings.
What was the other one? Oh, the worst. The fucking worst thing about this movie. This almost made me violent the first time I heard it.
Oh shit, I can't wait to hear.
I swear if had I ever met George Lucas at the time, I probably would have yelled at him. Now I'm better. Now I'm just going to be like, dude, that was a stupid move. Metachlorians.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Dude,
White.
I honestly, I got so mad when that came out. I was like, I will punch this guy if I ever meet him. Now I'm a little bit older, and I'm just like, that's just a dumb
Let
move.
me say something about that. In one breath, we're talking about immaculate conception. We have a divinity. Mm-hmm. We have the supernatural, if you will.
Yes, absolutely.
And now we're going to say it's done by science. The Force is actually scientific with other creatures that we're in symbiotic relationship with. Hey, come on. One or the other. Pick one, George.
Well, the problem is in his storytelling. When he did Star Wars Empire and Jedi, it was a force that surrounds and binds you. It moves through you. It's you're connected to everything in the
universe. Pretty supernatural, like
It is nature. It's nature.
Yes.
It's just there, and you can learn how to tap into it. Anybody could be a Jedi. You might not be a great Jedi, but anyone can become a Jedi. Oh nope, not if you don't have a metachlorian count. Wait, what? Nope, you don't have metachlorians. You're done.
I'm gonna fuck things up a little bit here. I want to back up on what you said. Anyone can be a Jedi, mm-hmm. And I hate to even bring up Ruin Johnson in this, but at the end of Episode 8, I think that's what he was trying to portray by showing the little kid with the broom at the end or whatever. I think he was trying to portray that anybody could be a Jedi, and I appreciated that. I thought that was cool, but that's a whole nother discussion, but that's what that made me think of. Because, anybody could be a Jedi because if they just learn how to tap into the Force around you, nature, then you got it. But now it's only an elite few that have a midichlorian count.
Yeah. Now all of a sudden you've changed that to where not everybody can become a Jedi if they practice. You just had to find somebody who – the whole thing midichlorians, okay? You failed me, George Lucas. You failed me.
Now, here's
you're
one
still a
little
multi-billionaire, so you don't give a shit.
Oh yeah. This is a little petty complaint, and it was just weird because Liam Neeson is 6'4", Natalie Portman is 5'2".
Right.
When those two were on screen, I thought she was a little child.
She does look like a little kid. Well, Kat asked me, she goes, how old was she? I said, about 19 or 20, I guess.
Yeah. I had to look up their heights because it's like, wait a minute, she is not that small. And she's not 5'2", she's not super small. But 6'4" is pretty damn big. So you put those, and she looked incredibly tiny.
She looked a lot younger and a lot smaller. So what was my other one? Jar Binks, Bill Cosby moment. When his lips get burnt on the by the thing, and he's blah, 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 blah.
That was like, a Bill Cosby moment.
Oh my God, you're literally pulling a Bill Cosby routine.
For those of you who don't know, Bill Cosby did in one of his skits about. Are you talking about going to the dentist?
Yeah, It's one of the funniest routines you'd ever.
It is very funny.
Listen to. It's very funny.
Fuck Bill Cosby, but very funny.
But I don't want to him, and I'm not drinking around him.
I wouldn't either. Or you might fuck Bill Cosby.
You might get fucked by Bill Cosby. But Jesus, how do we get off on the tangent?
Wow, that is staying in there.
Oh yeah, it's got to. But that moment really bothered me. Like when he starts talking like Bill Cosby was in that routine. I'm like, what? That's awful. What? How? That's writing comedy and not knowing how to write comedy. Instead of having the humor come out of the moment, That was a forced. Don't burn your lips on that, okay, Jar Jar, or whatever he told him. And 2 seconds later, he's doing it. Like,
Yeah,
okay, you're
it was
just
coming.
not funny. It just
No, it
wasn't.
wasn't. There was a lot of forced moments in there for humor. The droids and their dialogue.
Yeah.
Here's one of the problems I have. The actual Federation is sending commands. They're talking to the droids like you and I would call up and say, "Hey, Dave, move such and such." They're fucking droids. You should have some sort of mind connection or computer connection.
Right.
Hit a button, boom. They're going to go do what they're going to do.
Right.
Why do you have to talk to them like they're people? That was weird to me.
Yeah, especially battle droids. You'd think they'd be some kind of program.
They had personalities, and it's like, what?
Yeah, that bothered me, the way those droids. And what I really hated is there were no IG-88s or IG-11s. Like the whole books, all the books talk about it, or a lot of the books talk about that battle droid, and they always talk about the IGs.
Now, is that the same droid that was in The Mandalorian?
Yeah, that's an IG-11. IG-88 is the one in Empire Strikes Back, the black one, who looks just like an IG-11.
Oh, okay.
He's more powerful. But they always talk about those droids in the books and stuff like that. And then to have this movie where you're like, I'm like, fuck, you're gonna see these fucking IG-88s all over the God. This is gonna be brilliant.
Just not one battle droids.
Not a one. Instead, they had these cute little things that look kind of like an insect.
Yeah,
maybe.
And they were comical. Comic relief put in on
for no reason. Yeah. The one moment that did work for me is whenever Qui-Gon just walks up to the head droid and starts talking to him, and the droid doesn't know how to react to it. Like he's like, "Wait, what? You're supposed to be afraid of us, and you're not." That kind of was funny. But if it would have been just that moment against the battle droids just being badass, I would have been okay with it. But it wasn't. It was just every time you seen these guys, they were being. Who would buy a droid like that?
Well, exactly.
Anyway, moving on.
What about Darth Maul?
Oh, speaking of which, but go ahead. I have a note for that.
I think it's a great character, and I feel his character was done very dirty in this movie to introduce somebody so fucking cool and to cut their ass in half that fast.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, that was absolutely horrible. And I have a note somewhere in here about, okay, wait, you're fighting. Qui-Gon Jinn would have never got beat by Darth Maul.
He got beat pretty damn easy by Darth
This
Maul.
Guy's been training his entire life since he was a baby. He's got to be in his 50s now. He knows his shit. You got this other alien that's now maybe, if human age is the same, 20, 25. You know, he's been training.
Should be a hell of a master.
He's not been training since he's a baby. That's for sure. Because Palpatine's not going to pull him in and start training him. How are you going to keep that a secret?
Yeah, exactly.
So he had to train him as he was a little bit older. There's no way Qui-Gon would have not ever lost. Then to top it off, Qui-Gon gets killed by a stab, which should have cauterized everything anyway. Hurt like a bitch, I'm sure. I'm not saying you would. I'm not saying it wouldn't kill you.
Yeah.
But in comparison to being stabbed and dying, and then being cut in half and coming back in another movie and comics and cartoons, and still being severed in half, not buying it. I'm just saying that was bad writing on everybody.
Yeah.
If any writer wanted to bring back Darth Maul, he should have been a clone, which is what I was expecting in the next movie, fighting all the Dark Jedi. Oh, they're all dark. Oh, that's the next movie.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Darth Maul, though, man, he had a badass look. He had a bad look.
Great design.
And that ship, when you saw that ship coming into land on Tatooine, you're like, that's the bad guy ship. You could just look at it until it was a bad guy ship. There was not a good guy anywhere near the making or designing of that ship. When they were designing a ship for him, they said, we need to make this look like a bad guy ship because he's going to be a Sith Lord. It was a cool ship.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Now, let me ask something. Something that came up since you mentioned Sith. There's a comment made in here, and since I'm not well-versed in the Star Wars universe outside of the movies, they mentioned there could only be 2 Sith. Now, I play a lot of video games, and Knights of the Old Republic is a well-known Star Wars
Right.
video game with a lot of old lore, and there were tons of Sith. So I don't understand.
None of the books that I ever read talked about that. This,
About
I think, was made for his movie.
oh, just that there could only be two.
I think he made that up for this movie, and by that time, there were so many books and everything already written about the Sith and comic books. My God, I read so many Dark Horse comic books about the Sith and the Sith Empire,
Right.
and I'm just like, I've never read that. I never read where there's only two. That's why I was expecting all the Dark Jedi to come rolling in. I was like, that's a BS. Maybe the Jedi think that way, but that's not how these guys are going to think.
That's not how it really is. Okay, that's
And
what I thought. It's like,
you know,
wait a minute. I've seen lore that shows thousands upon thousands, complete worlds of
the
Sith.
Sith, I'm going back because it's been a long time since I read them, but I think the Sith were an actual species. I think they were an actual alien species that eventually died out. But
Right.
people had taken on like their training of the dark powers and everything that they could do. That's why Darth Vader is a Sith Lord. There's not, like he's the last. He's the last Sith Lord. He's the one who knew all the secrets.
Yeah.
Won't even talk about the Emperor at this point. But the thing that
he's been in front of our face the whole time. That's what I love about it, and that's why the name. This is an aptly named movie, The Phantom Menace. It's right fucking there,
right directly in front of you. And you were talking about the race, the pod race, and the old lady looks over at me. Whenever they're introducing everybody, and she's like, "We're racing for pinks, punk. Ownership papers." And I was just dying. Like, that's what Bulba or whatever his name was saying to Anakin.
That's a good character too, Sebulba. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Sebulba should have died whenever his ship goes crashing and Anakin slams into him and he crashes. Even though you could have kept it an accident, it should have been one of those deals where when he died, when you just see that compartment explode and Sebulba's dead, Anakin should have got a grin on his face. Like, looked over his shoulder, looked kind of at the camera,
just
almost
a little hint,
almost breaking the fourth wall with a smile on his face, and then go racing forward again. And I was like, they missed that point. You have to show that this kid, even then, had a dark streak, and that's what the Jedi Council picks up on.
Oh yeah, they picked up on it right away. They knew.
They picked up on that shit right away. Which leads me to another.
Before you move to that, one of the things that I said to Janine last night when we were watching it, we talk about the broken Chinese dialect, but when they got to the pod race, it instantly turned into NASCAR.
Yeah.
With the announcers and everything. So what the fuck is this?
I hated the two-headed announcer.
Yes.
Just give me two aliens.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah.
It was a toy. We can make a toy.
Dumb. I know that they based it on Ben-Hur, but when I watch the chariot race in Ben-Hur, my knuckles are on.
I don't remember a two-headed announcer in Ben-Hur.
No two-headed announcer on Ben-Hur. You know what? I'd be willing to bet there probably wasn't even an announcer. Probably. I'm going out on a limb here to say that there was no announcer.
Probably didn't even have a PA system.
No. Hey, Ben, keep racing faster. But, that's what I've heard it was based on, but I never felt the tingle that I feel when I watch the Ben-Hur race. Even today, those guys, some of those stuff hurt, like in real life got hurt.
Oh yeah, it was that's a hell of a thing.
Actually
a hell of a
fell
scene
out the fucking thing.
Yeah, that was major in movie making, that whole movie. But one of the things that's really funny on the pod race was the Tusken Raiders hanging out and just shooting people.
That was good.
Funny.
That was a good.
That was comic relief. That was done right. Yeah.
Because that's what those guys would do. They don't want anybody in their damn.
Just hanging out. No, take them off.
But Anakin's mother was quite possibly the worst mother in the galaxy at the time. Yeah. Because I have written down, Anakin's mother doomed the galaxy, failed mothering 101. Why would you let this kid go? I mean, I don't think Anakin's character would have ever left his mother. the way that he was being portrayed in this movie, that kid would have never walked away with.
He didn't want to. He really didn't want to leave.
He would have never. He would never have left. His mother could have told him to go. He would have never left.
I believe that. I believe that.
I never bought that moment for a second that kid would have walked away.
Yeah.
And left his mom. No way in hell. But for her to tell him, go learn the ways of a Jedi. It's like, yo, lady, you just killed the galaxy.
She did.
You know how many generations you fucked up?
Yeah, in a weird way, though, Anakin does bring balance.
Yeah.
I mean, he really does.
Yeah,
so the prophecy's not wrong. It's just how he gets there.
Thought it.
It just doesn't work the way they thought it would. He did bring balance, and in balance that was needed. And that was, but I'm with you on there. I never believed that he would have left. I thought that would have been a lot more drawn out. I get why she knew she didn't want her son to be a slave. And that's I get what you're saying. It's like, go learn how to be a Jedi, go destroy the world.
Yeah.
Conquer everything.
The Empire and really.
But here's something to remember, and I think everybody should take a moment to stop and think about. We look at these movies as Jedi good, Sith bad. But
right.
if we were looking at this as a story from the Sith, their response would be, these Jedis keep coming and fucking our shit up. We're trying to do this. We're trying to unite everybody under one banner so we can take and control everything and make it a better place.
Kind of like Nazis.
Kind of like Nazis, but and I'm not defending Nazis or the Empire, but history's written. You know where I'm going.
Every conversation has to end with Nazis.
Yeah. Well, anyway, there is a lot of symbolism that is borrowed and
especially in the later movies, and we'll talk about those.
Oh my God, yes, way too much.
But you're right. Depending on Darth Vader is the hero of this. I mean, as far as he's concerned in these movies, he's the good guy.
They are.
Yeah.
And if you haven't watched Cobra Kai, it's really wild how they did it. They made Johnny Lawrence explain how Daniel LaRusso bullied him, took his girlfriend, made him look bad and everything. It's like, this is awesome. This is awesome to see how somebody else saw it. So it's weird.
That's good writing. When you can be sympathetic to a villain and make it logical. Not sappy.
We never get this here. I don't think I ever feel sympathetic in this entire arc, do I feel really sympathetic to Anakin.
No. Even as a little kid.
No.
And I feel really bad for the Jake Lloyd, the actor. Hollywood chewed that poor kid up and spit him out. And I hope and pray that kid is getting his shit together some way,
I hope so.
somehow.
I really hope so. I know I've read interviews where
no favors at all.
Yeah. I read where he feels this movie destroyed him.
Oh yeah,
and that's really sad. And I hate that because he was actually really good in it.
He played a good part. He had a good role. He definitely. And I just feel bad that happened to that poor kid. I mean, just fucking Hollywood, man. If you take your kids out to Hollywood, you better keep an eye on them, folks, because shit happens. Bad shit happens. Speaking of bad shit happening, the bad Yoda design.
I thought Yoda looked very different.
Yeah, he looked he was horrible.
Okay. I am going to say something about that I did notice that he looked different, but I appreciated that he was practical effects.
He wasn't.
He was not a puppet. He's the only one that looked like a puppet.
It was CGI. That's because the guys actually did CGI work on him. As far as I know, he was all CGI.
I thought he was the only fucking puppet in the entire movie.
I'll take another look at that. But as far as I know, almost all the big characters were CGI like that.
Yeah, and I want
almost sure.
Okay, and I think he was the best CGI. Did a great
job. If not, they did a great job. I think he looked better in the next one, but.
Yeah, he did, and that
in the next one too.
Yes, but that's one of the problems I have with these movies and any movie in general. And we say this time and time again: practical effects will stand the test of time. We can go back and watch the 1980s Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, and it holds up today.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's all practical effects. This CGI, while in the year 2000 looked amazing and really fucking cool, it does not look good now. It does not hold up. It's like, oh God, this is bad. And that's practical all the way, baby.
In some of the Matrix movies, they did like a mix, practical and CGI.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of the stuff that I thought was CGI turned out to have been models and miniatures
Oh, wow.
mixed in with some CGI. And some of the stuff that I thought was models and miniatures was actually CGI. And I was like,
Wow.
holy crap, they did a really good job because they just moved stuff and they'd interspace both of them like together. They did a good job. And those movies, some of the stuff really holds up really well. Other stuff feels very rushed. But for this, most definitely, it's almost like having one of those old movie screens behind you with the cityscape, and you're standing in front of it. Meanwhile, it's just a film behind you. That's how I felt like a lot of the human actors were. You know?
I think that's what kind of hurt this is because watching Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett on how they designed everything, and so much of that takes place on Tatooine.
Yeah.
Seeing it's like, oh God, this is bad. They needed this set that they're not going to design for the next 20 years.
Yeah. They needed that technology 30 years from then. Now.
Yes. They needed a time machine to have that technology because those looked amazing. But you know what? In 30 years from now, we may be saying that doesn't look so good.
There is a scene. Let me get your take on this. I don't know if you noticed it, but there is a scene when Mace Windu and Yoda, and I guess it's the rest of the council are sitting there too, but they're arguing with who is? I think they're arguing with Qui-Gon Jinn, and there's a look that Yoda and Windu do, looking over at each other because they're talking about the kid. And Qui-Gon, I forgot the exact words, but Qui-Gon basically says, I got to train this kid. I'm going to train, whatever. I have to do this. And they're like, well, it's, there's something big going on. And the two of them just kind of share a look at each other. Like they know the future. Like they know what is in store for the galaxy. They know what has to be done. They know that Anakin's got to be trained. They know that Anakin's going to become Darth Vader. They know the Empire is going to rise and fall. That I think they knew with just that one look.
Huh.
And there's one of the other movies, just keep an eye out in one of the following movies. I think it's the second one where Yoda will have another look. And he'll be looking at Palpatine over his shoulder. And it's another one of those look that you're like, fuck, Yoda knows. Yoda knows exactly what's going to happen.
I did not catch that.
He can't tell anybody. And it's almost like he can't stop it. Like he knows the Force has to go one way.
And if that's the way you believed and the way they've trained, they would see there's nothing they can do to stop this. Yeah. And that was probably why he was so hesitant to even though he knew that he was going to have to, it was like, oh no, shit, this is the one. And we're
like, shit, this is happening in my lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of.
But do you know what scene I'm talking about? It was.
I do, but I did not catch that.
It's a quick glimpse, man. Yeah. It's maybe 5 seconds at the most.
Yeah, even that. Yeah.
And they just kind of look at each other, and it's like there
is that little.
They both realize what's going to happen. Windu knows he's going to die. The whole 9 yards. I mean, everybody knows the shit that's coming. At least those two do. I don't think the rest of the Jedi Council does. But I think those two are so powerful, they know what's coming.
That's probably very accurate.
Yeah,
so do you have any more notes on this?
Just that one. The Jedi Council doesn't know how to talk to children.
No, they don't.
Did none of them have children?
None of them grew up.
None of them. You were a kid. Did you like being talked to like that when you were a kid, when you were being trained? No, this kid's not even trained. You're just giving the kid shit. You're scared. Well, of course I'm scared. You're cold. Well, of course I'm cold.
I did find that very off-putting. It's like, come on now. It's a kid.
You guys are a bunch of assholes.
Yeah. So maybe if they weren't assholes, he wouldn't have freaked out later on.
Right. You know what? Maybe you guys could have given him the late night popcorn.
You did not hug him enough, and he turned into Darth Vader.
Darth Vader didn't get enough hugs.
It very well could be that. Well, we know it's more than that, but still.
Some things that I did like, though. The Darth Maul fight scenes.
Oh, yeah, very good. Ray
Not
Park
enough
did a
Darth
hell of
Maul
a
in
job.
this movie, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Should have been a lot more Darth Maul.
Absolutely. He's done dirty.
The dart guns. I liked that weapon.
Yes.
When they're on Naboo and they have to blast the window open, jump out on the ledge,
Yeah.
and shoot the dart gun up, and then like retract themselves up the wall.
Yeah.
That is a brilliant design. Whoever came up with that, I hope George Lucas was like, "That's brilliant. You get a bonus this week."
Yeah.
Because that was a good design for that gun. I love that design. Okay, no way Maul could have taken Qui-Gon. Why doesn't Obi-Wan go to the dark side when he's fighting Maul?
That's a good question. Because he's angry as fuck.
Whenever Qui-Gon gets killed, he's pissed. He's angry. And he's not hiding it. He's letting it.
He's channeling that shit.
He's letting that shit in. And I'm like, it was the first time I ever noticed it was last night. He did not remain calm.
No.
He attacked.
I never noticed that till, again, like you said.
For defense, never for attack. But he attacks Darth Maul.
Yes, he did.
He runs him back. He's pushing him back. And Darth Maul looks fucking worried.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, oh shit, why did he go to the dark side? Why? Because he had some training?
I don't know. That's a good point because he did give in to it. And there's no
he
denying
definitely
that.
gave in to the hate.
But one of the things about that, I think that whole scene is set up the same way Luke and Obi-Wan in episode 4, when Obi-Wan knows he's going to be killed by Darth Vader and he dies. I think this is a nod to that. You got Obi-Wan seeing his mentor being killed right in front of him, and now he has a choice to make. I don't know.
I talked a little bit about that last night to the old lady. I was like, okay, now I could have seen if somehow Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon had gotten injured a few times, and maybe a cut on the arm. He was weak, and he realized what was going to happen, and he pulled an Obi-Wan, a later version of Obi-Wan, and let the sword hit him, and he just fell, and there's nothing there.
Became a ghost.
That would have been great. That would have been like one of those moments, like, what the hell? Like that's how Obi-Wan's learning. He's been learning this. That should have been set up like that, in my opinion.
So that being said, I'm now even more upset over Return of the Jedi that we do not see a ghost of Qui-Gon sitting there with the rest of them.
But he didn't know Qui-Gon.
Still, I knew Qui-Gon.
I knew Qui-Gon. I knew Qui-Gon Jinn, sir, and you are no Qui-Gon Jinn. Sorry, I had to do it. But okay, but here's another weird thing: the burning of Qui-Gon Jinn at the end of the movie, and that is my final note. Is that not weird to you?
I thought it was a little weird.
And it's not that they burned him. It's not that he was on a pillar being burned that bothered me. It's that everybody was standing around almost ready to roast marshmallows.
They were that close.
They were like 2 feet of the guy. They're like, rubbing their hands.
They must have been cold. These Jedi bones really kick out some heat.
Nothing burns like a Jedi. Nothing burns like a dead Jedi.
Yeah. I mean, it's fair to believe that maybe their culture did burn. A lot of cultures do, but they were right up on that damn thing.
And that's not my problem. Wasn't that they were burning him. I understand.
It was they were right up. I did take note of that. It's like
a foot of him, and I'm like, that's just.
S'mores.
I'm sure you can smell it. You're seeing your mentor being burned within 2 feet of you.
I thought about that. It's like you're going to sit there and watch as their flesh burns from the. I don't know.
I get burning Darth Vader, and even Luke was about 10 or 20 feet away. When he catches it on fire, he walks back. And at least Vader's still in the helmet and the costume. Yeah. And I get that's probably supposed to be a whole circular thing to that, but. You wasn't.
Wow, it probably is. So, final thoughts on Phantom Menace?
I think this is where episodes 7, 8, and 9 start to fall apart. I think you can blame. Yeah, these.
I can see that. I see the reasoning for that. We will discuss that when we get to 7, but I do see it. I do absolutely see it.
I will bring up my favorite person to dislike in all the so far. in this first episode and all the specials that I watched, never saw Kathleen Kennedy. She's supposed to be such a huge, big part of this series and these movies from the 90s. And oh my God, she was always there. Didn't see one interview with her.
Nope.
No mention of her. Nothing.
That's a good point. I did see.
That's my first dig.
But I will tell you who I did see. I saw several ETs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always thought that was funny.
Look like the aliens, like smaller versions of the aliens.
Yeah. Keep your eyes on the council. There's a lot of Easter eggs hiding in this. I love the. I sent you a picture earlier today of a statue that was in Anakin's room.
Yes.
And because I took a screenshot of it. And what's funny, I went Googling this. And somebody else had the exact same screenshot, so I guess we grabbed the same frame.
That's freaking great. But last night was the first time I spotted that.
Me too, because we're looking at movies differently.
Yeah,
I'm watching more stuff. Yeah, and
I'm looking for stuff.
I saw that. I was like, "What the hell is that?" And it's reminiscent of a Japanese, what's called a dogu. There's small little statues like that, and it's like, "Well, that's really cool." And I don't know if it was made for the movie or based off something else, but it was just there. I was like, "Wait a minute, what the hell?"
That's very interesting. That's very cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
So my final
pop that picture up as you're talking about this. Pop that picture up so people know what to look at.
If I remember, I will put that picture up.
This is true.
If I remember, I will do my best if I remember. But I may put it in the links too. But anyway, that's there's a lot of stuff we can do. But yeah, the little ETs and that kind of thing.
There's so many different alien species in the council.
I know you hadn't watched the latest Mandalorian, but he does end up with a ship from Naboo.
Yeah,
so
I heard about
seeing those ships was actually pretty cool. It's like,
I heard about that.
The Mandalorian ship. I don't like this movie. I do acknowledge it's part of the universe, and I acknowledge the story that it brings.
Right.
I give it. I don't think it's a necessary watch, only if you want to know Star Wars history. If you were looking for a good time, this ain't it. And
I don't think this one's it.
No, this is not it.
A little kid might like it more than I like it, for sure.
I think so. We've got the next movie. I do remember liking it more, so we shall see. There's a lot more.
I like and appreciate this movie more now because looking at it the way I looked at it and realizing some of the things he had to do, I get. A lot of the things he did, like metachlorians, hate that right there, that alone will ruin this movie for a true Star Wars fan, like somebody who grew up with Star Wars. And I think, because everybody
I would
who
agree
I know
with you.
that thinks about it like I do, hated metachlorians. They're like, what the fudge is a metachlorian?
You took away the nature bit.
Exactly. And that's why I liked. I think they fixed it in one of the other ones when they're talking about the universe. I think Luke, later on in one of the Luke Skywalker ones, talks about energy and the Force and how it really is.
Interesting.
And he leaves that alone. He leaves alone the metachlorian crap. So I think they were trying to get away from that too. So that's good. I thought that was a good move.
So next week, Attack of the Clones. Is that the name of it?
Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones. Episode 2. We see an older Anakin, and we'll be back next week to tell you what's happening next.
And I'm going to take some notes. You take some notes, yeah.
Do take some time, folks out there. If you like our show, subscribe, like, share, spread the word. Drop us a line, because I know we said things that you disagree with today, and we will for the next 10 episodes.
Yes,
say some things that might just piss you off, and that's fine. You know what? If you love it, great, good for you. You think Jar Jar Binks is the best character? Fine. You're wrong, but fine.
Well, some people think Jar Jar Binks is a Dark Jedi.
I've heard that, and I'm not even going to entertain that.
But I'm not going to give it to him.
No, I can't. That's a reach. That's like, how do I make this horrible character where people will like it? I could come up with this crazy.
How do I justify this horrible character?
Yeah, there it is. How do I justify it? No, it doesn't work. It doesn't. Just let it go. It's a shit character. Ahmed Best. I wish you the best out there, and I think people give you the shaft on the character. So
And it's not his fault. You took your direction probably better than I would have.
Well, and that's one of the things I said about this whole movie, and we've talked about is I think the acting is not great, but that's a director's issue.
Yeah.
They could pull out of because you've got the best set of paints set right there in front of you. All of these actors who can really fucking deliver, and you're not even going to open it up. You're going to go get your dollar store paint out. Yeah.
Ewan McGregor and freaking Natalie Portman, and you can't get them to act well. Natalie Portman was delivering lines like she was reading them for the first time.
She has been acting since she was very young, and she is great.
She's in that movie with the assassin, and I forgot.
Yeah, The Professional with John Reno. Yeah,
that is a great movie.
Yes,
she plays that part of that little kid, fucking perfect to a T.
Yeah,
and I'm like, you see her in that, and then you see her in this, and you're like, what the hell happened in between these movies? Did you forget how to? Did you get hit on the head, Natalie?
No.
Did you forget how to?
It's the director.
Oh wait, George Lucas was directing you. Never mind.
Yeah, I give them all a pass, but it's just what it shows is like you can have the best, but if you don't have that one little glue of, there's a lot of misfires.
I don't want it to be thought of that I hate George Lucas. I do not. I love.
Oh no,
the man is a master. He is a master idea man.
He gave us a great universe.
Thank God for his drive to get this thing made, and I'm never going to shit on him. I will shit on certain aspects. I think he should have got somebody else to direct, leave out midichlorians, and let Jon Favreau alone. Everybody needs to just leave that guy alone and let him do what he's doing.
Yeah. Agreed.
You gave it up, George. You got $3 billion.
Now walk away.
You can be pissy all you want, but you got paid. you set the price.
It's John's universe now, and I think that was a good passing of the reins.
Fine. Yeah. But I like this movie more now than I did, and I think it's because I did look at it with a more critical eye. And some things, as I'm getting older, I'm just letting go and going, all right, I'll pick what I like and leave alone what I don't like. I'm gonna pretend that line wasn't said, kind of attitude.
Yeah, I got you.
That's what I do with this.
All right, folks. So that's gonna wrap it up for today. So catch us next week with episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and drop us a line because we just want to say hi.
We're lonely.
Catch you next week.
Bye.